I think we've all heard this notion before. They blew up overnight, or they just got lucky. Success that you're seeing somebody else achieve, it can feel like it just came out of nowhere. Like they woke up one morning and all of their dreams have come true. You see that big moment of success and the achievement of that big goal, and you assume that it came very quickly. But the truth is, there's no such thing as an overnight success. When we see these big moments of success and these big achievements of goals, we see the one moment. We see the one endpoint of this person getting to where they want to go. But what we don't see is all of the early mornings, all of the late nights, all of the failed attempts, all of the times they've had to pivot and try new things and show up when they didn't feel like doing it, and the sacrifices that they had to put in to get there. The truth is, success is not something that comes instantly. It is not something that is going to happen overnight. It is the result of you continuing to show up and do those things even when they're really hard and refusing to quit partway through the process. In today's episode, we're going to be pulling back the curtains on what true success actually looks like and what it actually takes to get you to that big end goal that you are chasing. I'm going to be talking about a couple of examples of other people I've looked up to and some examples from my own life to help illustrate this for you. So if you are someone who is in the thick of working towards some sort of goal and feeling like you're not seeing the success that you want to see yet, stay tuned. This one is for you.
Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I was actually listening to another podcast earlier this week that sparked the idea for this episode. And it got me thinking about this entire concept. So I'm just going to dive into it and talk a little bit more about what this was. So I think for a lot of people, if you are listening to this podcast, you're probably someone who is pretty heavily into personal development and things kind of under that umbrella. And so chances are you probably already know who Mel Robbins is. This woman is hugely known in the motivational personal development kind of space. She has one of the top ranked podcasts. She has multiple best-selling books. She has one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time. She has amassed a massive following online. This woman is an absolute icon in the personal development space. And I think if you are anything like me, whenever you think of this woman and the success that she has amassed, it can be hard to really appreciate just how much work has had to go in to her getting to where she is now. We all know her as the massive success that she is now and all the things that she has already accomplished. But I think sometimes we forget just how much work had to go into getting her to that place. And so she said something in an interview recently that had me reflecting on this. So I was listening to Oprah Winfrey's podcast, and she interviewed Mel Robbins, and the two of them were talking about anxiety. And so Mel starts describing a period in her life that she has talked about on many platforms before, including her own, where she was at a really, really low period of her life. She was $800,000 in debt. She was, drinking too much and dealing with a massive amount of anxiety and having a lot of trouble just getting out of bed in the morning. And she describes the instance where she came up with the 5-second rule and started using that as a tool to get herself out of bed in the morning because she was usually lying there kind of ruminating in anxiety. And she's describing the first morning where she put this tool that she created into place. And she's describing the moment. She says, I remember it clearly. It was a Tuesday morning in February in 2008. And when she said that, I had a moment of pause because I knew years and years had kind of gone by since this moment had happened. But for her to actually put it into really concrete context and say the year, it got me to stop and think, 2008, that was a long time ago. And I think looking at her success, you don't really appreciate how much has gone into where she is now. But if we put it into the perspective of that woman back in 2008, using this tool out of, necessity just to get herself out of bed in the morning. That was 17 years ago. 17 years. This was not an overnight transition. The moment where she first put that tool into place and first used it to get herself out of bed in the morning was 17 years ago. So there has been 17 years of working on herself, of overcoming her own challenges in her own life, of getting on stage and getting into motivational speaking and talking about this tool and writing these books and creating this podcast and putting all of the work in to become the person that she is. And it was that notion and that realization that it had been 17 years of her putting in the work to be the person that she is now, had me reflecting on the fact that there is just no such thing as an overnight success. I think a lot of the times when we see people who have amassed a large amount of success or have accomplished something really big, we don't appreciate the work that has to go into that. All you see is the success. You don't see the years and months of putting in the work and doing the things and all the boring, repetitive tasks that you have to do to get to that success point. We don't see all of that behind the scenes stuff a lot of the time. And so we don't fully appreciate just how much has to go into that. And I think especially, in this day and age, we are so accustomed to instant gratification. We have so many tools out there. We have so many resources to get what we want immediately. I'll give you an example of this. I went to order something on Amazon a couple nights ago. I had run out. I take a supplement before bed to help me sleep a little bit better, and I had run out of it. And I was lying in bed. It was around 8 p.m. and I'm, on Amazon and I'm ordering a new one. Put in the order. I get up at 4 a.m. the following morning, not even 24 hours after I've ordered this, and it's already at my door. I wasn't even expecting it to be there that quickly. We have so much access to instant gratification between things like Amazon and being able to order food and groceries to our house immediately when we want it, and going on social media and getting that instant hit of dopamine whenever we want it. We are so accustomed to getting things quickly, getting things immediately, getting that, instant payoff whenever we want it. And I think it has caused us to lose touch a little bit with just how long and how much work is necessary in order to obtain real, true success. It is not instant gratification. It is not something that's going to come that quickly. You really got to put your head down and be willing to do the work. And I think this is one of the main reasons why a lot of people fail when it comes to going after a really big goal of theirs. Because it can be really easy when you first set a really big goal or you have a really big, aspiration to achieve something, and you're feeling really motivated and you're feeling really gung-ho to take it on and do the thing and get that accomplishment and get that end goal. And we underestimate how much time is going to be needed to get to that end goal. We underestimate how much work and grinding and just doing things that you don't really want to do is going to be needed to get to that end goal. And so what happens is we will start working towards something, expecting it to be fast, expecting it to be instant. And we get to work when we're feeling really motivated and, excited to take that on. But that process is not as fast as we think it's going to be. It requires you to keep showing up over and over again. And eventually that motivation that you felt early on isn't going to be there. And so this is kind of that moment where a lot of people will quit and just kind of wipe their hands with the whole process because they're no longer feeling motivated. They're not seeing the instant results that they were expecting. It doesn't feel like they're making the progress that they want to make. And so you throw in the towel and you throw it in way too early before you finally get to that end goal that you're hoping to see. Rob Dial talked about an example of this in one of his podcast episodes as well that I really liked. This was a really cool example to kind of put this into perspective. So he talked about the story of the Chinese bamboo. And so this is a plant that you will plant and water and nurture and take care of. And after the first year, you won't see any growth. After the second year, nothing. Third, fourth year, you are not going to see any payoff for the effort that you are putting into this plant. But if you continue to put in the work and you continue to nurture this plant up to year 5, suddenly this plant shoots up about 80 feet. It will grow at a rate of about 2 feet per day after years and years of nothing. So we think. What's been happening over those 4 years leading up to that moment is that plant has been growing its roots and laying the foundation and preparing for that big moment and doing all of that kind of behind the scenes work to be ready for that period of time where it's going to shoot out of the ground. But this is all, work and effort that we don't see, and it's not instant, and it's not right in our faces. It's not something that we can appreciate as easily. And so this is a really cool example to kind of paint a picture of how success and progress can play out for a lot of us. Is we will be in the thick of that 4-year nurturing period, not seeing the plant, not seeing the growth, not seeing the results that we want. And so we quit. And so you quit before you hit that 5-year period. You quit before, you actually get to reap the benefits of all the hard work you've been putting in. But if you're willing to stay persistent and you're willing to continue to do the thing, eventually all of that hard work pays off and the ball gets rolling, and all of that hard work that you have put in really starts to come to fruition and you really start to see it. But you've got to be willing to grind it out first. You have to be willing to continue to show up and do the work year after year, even when you're not motivated, even when you don't want to do it. I'll give you another example, actually. This podcast is a great example of this. So I am still, very early on in my whole podcast journey. We are a little over 5 months into this. So I'm still kind of a baby creator in terms of the entire timeline of podcasts is concerned. And I am by no means, huge in the podcasting space like some of the people I listen to. But every week when a new episode comes out, I'm able to see a little bit of growth. And I'll give you an example recently that kind of put this into perspective for me. So when I put out the first episode of this podcast, I put out the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And so there's a video version on YouTube. And of course I, will check how many listens and downloads and views are going on all of these platforms. But the one that I tend to pay the most attention to is YouTube. And the first episode I posted of this podcast got 10 views in the first week, which is amazing. Listen, it was more than I was expecting it to get. It's amazing. I'm grateful that people were listening to this, period. Now, you fast forward about 5-ish months down the line, one of the more recent episodes I posted hit 131 views in the first week. And if you are someone who's huge on YouTube or huge in any sort of social media space, you may be hearing that and thinking, well, that's not really a huge number. That's nothing too substantial. But if you compare it to episode 1, it's 13 times more. It's a lot more compared to where I started off. So while that progress may not seem huge objectively, compare it to where you used to be, and it's a huge step in the right direction. And every week that gets a little bit better. And this show continues to reach, more and more people every single time. But it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be one of those situations where, I wake up one morning and suddenly this has gone from 100 views to hundreds of thousands. It's going to require me to continue to show up every week and continue to put in the work and continue to create episodes for you guys and make sure that I'm bringing my best self to these episodes and doing the research and doing the editing and having these prepped and ready to go. And it requires a lot of behind the scenes work in order to see that long-term success. And so this, just like anything else, if I want to hit that kind of reach, that kind of success down the line, I have to be willing to keep showing up now and keep doing the episodes and keep working to get a little better every single week. Even if I'm not seeing the results that I want to see now, I have to trust in the fact that I will see them down the line. Another great example of this that I think we've talked about several times on this podcast in various contexts is any sort of, physical, diet, body image related goal. If you are somebody who is coming into the gym for the first time and you have, say, 20, 30 pounds to lose and you've never worked out in your life, you getting to that end goal and achieving the physique and achieving the fitness goal that you want to achieve, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be a matter of you showing up and eating salads and lifting weights for 1 week and suddenly you wake up and you look in the mirror and, oh my God, the dream physique I wanted is here. It's not like that. It is months, sometimes years of you continuing to show up, continuing to wake up early or go to the gym after work or be more aware of your food or cut back on your alcohol intake and doing all these little habits over and over and over again, even when you don't want to, even when you're not motivated, even when you feel like throwing in the towel and giving up, continuing to do all of those things anyways is what is going to get you to that end point eventually. But you have to be willing to go through that whole process to get the end result. You can't expect the results to be instant. It will not happen overnight. I'll give you another example of this. Someone who's pretty widely known. I'm pretty sure we've all heard of Beyonce, the queen herself, who has amassed massive success in the music space. She didn't start performing, a couple of years before she amassed all of this success. She started performing at 8 years old. She spent years in rehearsals and competitions and talent shows and in several other girl groups before Destiny's Child ever took off. It was not an instant success. She was not instantly the big household name that she is now. It is a result of her putting in years and years of work, years and years of consistency and doing the thing and improving herself and learning the process and getting a little better and continuing to show up, whether she was motivated to do it or not. It took way longer for a lot of these big household names to achieve the success that they've achieved than I think a lot of us appreciate. And this is just a really good reminder that big, flashy success that you are wanting to achieve, that big goal that you are wanting to get, it is not going to be this kind of sexy, instant, overnight moment. It is going to be a result of you showing up over and over and over again and doing the things consistently and trusting in the process and trusting in the fact that it is going to work out eventually. That hard work that you are putting in now is not for nothing. All of that is just a process of you laying the foundation to become the person that you were going to be. So if you are somebody who, like me with this podcast, is in the thick of it, in that kind of deep trenches of just continuously putting in the work and grinding and working to get a little bit better every time, that work is not for nothing. That is you laying that foundation, just like the Chinese bamboo. This is that 4 years of you building those roots and getting ready for your big growth moment. That overnight success story that you see online, that person that you look up to who has achieved goals beyond your wildest dreams, it is usually just the public's first glimpse at someone who's been working and grinding in the shadows for a very, very long time. So I just thought this was a really interesting reminder, and hearing Mel Robbins reflect on her history and where she's come from had me thinking about this. And I thought this was a really interesting topic to bring to the podcast this week, to have you kind of reflect on this yourselves and just to help give you a little bit of perspective that if you are working towards something right now, all of those little things, all of those little moments of you showing up and continuing to do the thing, even when it feels really hard, is not for nothing. It's not for nothing. You are going to reach that moment of success that you are chasing, but you have to keep showing up and you have to be willing to play the long game. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Okay? Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next week.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you like the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support helps the show reach even more incredible people just like you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.